The classroom buzzed with low chatter as the bell rang. Mr. Whitman, tall and rigid in his faded tweed jacket, slammed a thick textbook onto the desk. The sound snapped the students into silence. His eyes scanned the room, narrowing when they landed on Malik, a quiet black student sitting in the second row. "You again," Whitman sneered. "Late with homework. Can't keep up. Tell me, Malik, why are you even here?" A ripple of laughter broke out in the back of the room. Malik's stomach tightened. He lowered his gaze, gripping his pencil until his knuckles turned white. Whitman wasn't finished. "You'll never amount to anything. Kids like you, you're just wasting space in my classroom." Gasps, nervous giggles, whispers. Malik's ears burned. He wanted to defend himself, but his throat locked. What the teacher didn't know, what none of the students knew, was that Malik's mother owned the very school Whitman stood in. And soon, everyone would find out. Malik Johnson was 16, quiet, intelligent, a boy who loved books more than video games. He wore secondhand sneakers and carried a backpack with frayed straps. He never bragged about his life outside school. He never had the latest phone or flashy clothes. And that made him an easy target. Mr. Whitman had been teaching for years. He was known for being strict, but with Malik, his cruelty seemed personal. He saw Malik's silence as weakness, his humility as failure. Day after day, Whitman singled him out. "Do you even understand a question? Don't bother trying. You'll just slow the class down. No wonder your grades are slipping." Malik stayed quiet because he had a secret. His mother, Dr. Aisha Johnson, wasn't just another parent. She was a brilliant entrepreneur who had saved the academy from shutting down only months earlier. But Malik had begged her not to tell anyone. He didn't want to be treated differently. He wanted to prove himself as just another student. Still, as Whitman's insults grew sharper, Malik began to wonder if staying silent was the right choice. The next week, Whitman called Malik to the board. "Let's test your math skills." "Or lack of them," Whitman said, smirking. The chalk squeaked as Malik wrote his answer carefully. Whitman glanced at it, then barked. "Wrong. Wrong again. Class, see this? This is what happens when you don't put in the effort." Students exchanged awkward looks. A few giggled. Malik's cheeks burned hot. But what Whitman didn't notice was that Malik's answer was actually correct. A girl in the front row raised her hand timidly. Mr. Whitman, I think Malik's answer..." "Quiet," Whitman snapped. "Do not question me. Sit down." The room fell silent. Malik slowly walked back to his seat, holding back tears. That night, he sat at the kitchen table, staring at his homework. His mother walked in, still dressed in her navy business suit from a long day of meetings. "Malik, what's wrong?" He shook his head. "It's nothing." But she could see the pain in his eyes. "Does it have to do with school?" she asked softly. Malik hesitated. Then he nodded. Dr. Johnson sat beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You know, Malik, people will always underestimate you. But it's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right." Malik forced a small smile. But deep down, he knew tomorrow would only bring more humiliation. The next morning, Malik walked into class determined to stay invisible. But Whitman wasn't about to let that happen. "Class," Whitman announced, "we're having parent-teacher meetings this week. Some of you will have a lot to explain to your parents." His eyes locked on Malik. "And some parents will finally hear the truth about their children, especially the ones wasting our time." The students turned, staring at Malik. He sank lower in his chair. Whitman smirked. "Don't worry, Malik. I'll make sure your mother knows exactly how hopeless you are." Malik's stomach dropped. If Whitman only knew who his mother really was. The day of the parent-teacher meetings arrived. The halls buzzed with families arriving. Fathers in pressed suits, mothers in elegant dresses, some carrying clipboards or Zooms to brag about their children's achievements. Malik walked slowly behind his mother. She was dressed sharply in a navy blazer and pearl earrings, the kind of elegance that turned heads. Students whispered as they passed. "Who's that with Malik? She looks important. Can't be his mom." But Whitman wasn't paying attention to whispers. He was waiting. Inside the classroom, Whitman's smug smile widened when Malik and his mother walked in. "Mrs. Johnson, welcome," he said with fake politeness. He pulled out a chair. "Please, sit down. I'm afraid we have a lot to discuss about your son's shortcomings." Malik clenched his jaw, staring at the floor. Dr. Johnson folded her hands gracefully. "I'm here to listen." Whitman leaned back, enjoying himself. "Your son is disruptive, unprepared. He drags the entire class down. Quite frankly, I don't see much of a future for him." Malik's chest tightened. His mother said nothing, only nodding slightly. Whitman leaned forward, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "Between you and me, I'd suggest adjusting expectations. Children like him, well, they don't usually make it far." Malik froze. His fists balled under the desk. Did he just say, "children like him"? Later that evening, the school hosted a mixer in the auditorium for parents and teachers. Tables of refreshments lined the back. Students performed music and teachers mingled. Whitman stood with a group of parents, wine glass in hand. "I try my best," he said loudly, "but some students simply don't belong here. They lower the standard." Malik overheard from across the room. His stomach turned as Whitman continued. "Take Malik, for example. Nice boy, perhaps, but hopeless. Completely out of his depth. I doubt he'll ever achieve anything worth mentioning." Laughter from the group. Dr. Johnson's face remained calm, though her eyes darkened. She placed her hand gently on Malik's shoulder. "Stay strong," she whispered. But Malik's heart was pounding. The humiliation was unbearable. The next morning, Whitman entered class with a stack of tests. "Results are in," he announced. He began handing papers back, one by one, commenting loudly. "Excellent work. Needs improvement. Outstanding." Finally, he reached Malik. Whitman slapped the paper onto his desk. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. Students craned their necks. Malik glanced at the paper, a bright red B+ at the top. His jaw dropped. That was one of his best grades. Whitman saw the confusion and sneered. "Don't look so shocked. I was generous. Truthfully, you don't belong in this class." The class erupted in whispers. "Why is he being so harsh? That's actually a good grade." "Man, he's targeting him." Malik felt his face burn, but something inside him was shifting. He was tired of being silent, tired of being humiliated. And Whitman wasn't finished. "I'll tell you what," the teacher said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "If you can solve the bonus problem I put on the board, something even my best students struggle with, then maybe I'll admit you're worth teaching." He crossed his arms. "Go ahead, Malik. Prove me wrong." The chalk felt heavy in Malik's hand as he walked to the board. Every pair of eyes followed him. The room was silent, tense. Whitman smirked. "Let's watch him embarrass himself again." Malik stared at the complex equation. His heart pounded, but his mind was sharp. He lifted the chalk. Slowly, carefully, he began to write. Step by step, line by line. The room leaned in closer. And when Malik placed the final number on the board, the room went dead silent. Gasps, whispers. One student even clapped before covering their mouth, because Malik's answer was perfect. Whitman's smug smile faltered. His face twitched, but he forced a laugh. "Lucky guess," he muttered. Nothing more. But the students weren't buying it. They were staring at Malik with wide eyes. For the first time, respect. Whitman straightened, voice shaking slightly. "Don't get ahead of yourself, boy. I'll be speaking with your mother again. This conversation is far from over." He turned sharply, gripping his grade book like a lifeline. Malik glanced at his classmates, who now looked at him in awe. Little did Whitman know, his humiliation of Malik was about to blow up in the worst possible way, because the entire school was about to learn exactly who Malik's mother really was. The day after Malik solved the impossible problem, the school buzzed with whispers. Did you hear what Malik did? He solved it faster than anyone else. Even Whitman looked shook. But instead of acknowledging Malik's brilliance, Whitman doubled down. That morning, he called Malik to the front of the class. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced smugly, "yesterday's performance was interesting, but let's not forget, one correct answer does not erase months of laziness and mediocrity." The class groaned. Even the students were starting to see through him. Then came the announcement over the loudspeaker. "Attention, all students and faculty. Please report to the auditorium for a special assembly." The room buzzed with curiosity. Whitman frowned. "Very well. Line up." The entire school gathered in the grand auditorium. Students filled the seats. Teachers lined the sides, and the principal stood at the podium. "Good morning, everyone," the principal said warmly. "Today, we are honored to welcome a very special guest. Someone who has long supported our school, not just financially, but with a vision of excellence." Whitman whispered to a colleague, "Another donor? Hopefully someone who can appreciate real teachers." The principal smiled. "Please join me in welcoming Dr. Angela Johnson, the chairwoman of our school board." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Malik's mother, dressed in a tailored black suit, heels clicking against a wooden stage, walked gracefully to the podium. Whitman's jaw dropped, his face drained of color. Chairwoman? His mother? Students whispered loudly. "That's Malik's mom?" "No way." "Bro, his mom runs the school." Whitman staggered, gripping his folder. Dr. Johnson adjusted the microphone. "Thank you. As many of you know, I've dedicated my life to education. But excellence is not just about grades or test scores. It's about respect, dignity, believing in every student's potential." Her eyes swept across the crowd, then landed on Whitman. "I have heard troubling reports," she continued slowly, her voice firm, "that some students here have been belittled, humiliated, told they would never amount to anything." The auditorium was silent, and I want to make one thing perfectly clear. Any teacher who disrespects a child under my care has no place in this institution. Every head turned toward Whitman. He swallowed hard, sweat dripping down his temple. Dr. Johnson's gaze softened when it landed on Malik. "My son has taught me something valuable. That sometimes, even when the world doubts you, you have to stay strong. Because the truth always comes out." Applause broke out across the room. Students cheered, parents nodded, and teachers clapped. Whitman stood frozen, exposed before everyone. After the assembly, the principal called Whitman into his office. The door shut firmly behind them. Moments later, Whitman stormed out, face red, clutching a cardboard box of his belongings. Students lined the hall, whispering, "Is he fired?" Finally, he deserved it. Whitman avoided Malik's eyes, but Malik stood tall now, no longer the quiet target. Dr. Johnson walked beside her son, smiling. "Proud of you," she whispered. That afternoon, Malik returned to class with a new teacher, one who greeted him warmly, one who encouraged him to share his ideas. Students treated him differently too, respectfully. The boy they once ignored or laughed at had proven himself. Later at home, Malik sat at the kitchen table with his mother. She placed her hand on his. "Malik," she said softly, "people will always try to define you. But remember this, their words don't matter. Your worth is not up for debate." Malik nodded, determination in his eyes. "I'll remember, Mom." And so, the teacher who thought he could crush a young boy's spirit ended up destroying his own career instead. Because respect is not a privilege. It's a duty. Backhand index pointing right. Never judge someone by how they look, because the person you underestimate may be the one who holds your future in their hands.